The main concern is, why is the Vice Chancellor of UAL not responding to us regarding the reimbursements of our tuition fees?
If UAL is so proud of having so many international students, why aren't our needs being taken into consideration?
We also sent an open letter with a total of 306 MA student signatures. This letter was sent to the Board of Governors as well as the Vice Chancellor. Nearly 2 weeks have passed and there's been no response from you. Could you please provide us with a detailed answer as to why the university would not consider a partial reimbursement? As students and consumers, we think a detailed response is a fair request.
My question is, if I'm not able to continue using studio space, workshops, the library, and other facilities that can't be accessed remotely, why has my tuition not changed to reflect that? We find it unjust that we, as students who make very little as it is or have no income at all, are held responsible to maintain a facility from which we are not benefiting from. I'd like to voice my concern over the school's lack of preparedness. It should be the school's responsibility to have the proper risk management procedures and contingency funds set in place during times like these to ensure the financial well-being of this educational institution. It is not the responsibility of the students who in this situation are the most vulnerable both financially and socially.
I've come here today to ask a question to the Vice Chancellors and the Executive Board regarding international students and applications. I would like to know why the applications are open over here, unlike the other European countries.
As an international student, I would like to ask the university to lobby for the graduating international students to be able to receive the 2-year graduate visa. This visa was made available for the international intake of September 2020. It is something that already exists, and this visa will resolve most of the issues students on Tier 4 visas are currently facing, including finishing projects, participating in physical showcases, and finding opportunities to apply for work in the UK.
The Designer Maker course is built around physical making. Students choose to study at Campbell because of its culture of physical making. Instead of suspending studies and resuming when it is safe, the university is replacing my choice of physical learning with virtual learning. I want to know how UAL intends to justify this, and if UAL has considered extending courses for students who are on the 1-year MA course. If they haven't, why?
First, I would like to ask the university why have they act as if they could decide for the students whether we should maintain or remain studying or not, given the circumstances, especially with students overseas, as I am, since we have made an extra effort to study in this university because of all the advantages that there are being in London and in a foreign country. And second of all, I would like to know why I haven't received any direct answer from the university about my petition of getting a refund for this semester, since I had paid it 6 months ago, and these are not resources from the university but are my resources, and we should have absolute freedom if we should or if we want them back or not.
Coming from the course Performance Design and Practice, is ironic that I don't have a practice anymore, and I wonder how democratic is the forced switch to online learning when I know from fact that not all students have access to fast internet, and low-income students own all computers and technologies, while before they were able to use the resources that UAL was providing. Since when being economically privileged is a requirement to be a UAL student? And since when a university is forcing the medium of your practice without asking you?
I want to know why the university says that it is in our interest and in every student interest to graduate as soon as possible when we are coming out with a portfolio we don't feel confident with, that we have not been able to develop fully because of not being able to use the university in a failing economy and extremely suffering creative industry.
I want to know what the university will offer graduating students who cannot return to campus.
I don't understand why we're paying for something that the university is not providing, without giving us any options or power to decide. We paid you for something that we are not getting, and we are the ones making the biggest compromises. How can we be okay with this?
Hi, I'm an international student of UAL, and as you know, it's a very tough year for everyone, and we're going on with a remote tutorial here. The facility and the library are not available for us, and this is not the studying experience we expected here. But the tuition fee remains very high, so hope the UAL can take students' voice into consideration.
I'm one of the students that got access to the UAL Hardship Fund in order to get better internet access from my home. The way how this works is that university will refund me the costs of this internet purchase within 21 days. Now I've looked into this, and in order to get internet connection that can keep up with the performance of video conference calls, for example, I would need to spend around £180 out of my own pocket. Now I wonder, how can UAL expect students that are already in disadvantaged position to afford this payment out of their own pocket at once, only to continue or finish their degree online? Internet updates. So I'm one of the students that got access to the UAL Hardship Fund in order to get better internet access for my home. The problem is now that I cannot obtain such a mobile internet device as university suggested me to do, because I haven't lived in the UK for 3 years. This is a problem because apparently these providers need to do a credit check if you want to get a mobile internet dongle that is based on a 1-month contract instead of 12 or 24 months. And those need to be registered on credit cards that have been used in the UK for more than 3 years. So I cannot even get additional internet in order to complete my course in a successful way.
I think if there is no support with visa status for international students, it is nearly impossible to find a placement of any sort after graduation. I think it's really unfair for especially international students. So I'd like to ask about your plan to deal with this problem. Also, the tuition fee I paid is not for an online version of the course. So with the lack of access to resource, it is unreasonable that the tuition stays as it is. If the uni cannot refund it, even partially, I think we really need to know why with transparency.
I think what bothers me the most about this whole situation is that a lot of our incomes have been affected by this, and paying tuition fees for our next year, next couple of years even, is going to be extremely difficult, and who knows if we'll even be able to continue with our courses. So I want to know if there's anything kind of in the works for that, any sort of fund or aid that we can apply for, and if there isn't, why.
In the case of physical platform and access to facilities and resources is being provided in the foreseeable future when the university can assure safety for both their staff and students, how the university will ensure the access of international students in an equal basis as EU and home students? International students' main concern is to have equal opportunities as the rest of the student body in UAL. Our permit to stay in the UK will expire on October 20th. Is this being revised? Are we having any support from UAL in regards to extending our Tier 4 visas?
Hi, so one of my biggest concern and question is, when are you going to open again the facilities and the workshop for final year students who can't finalize their project right now because of the lockdown? And is it possible after the finalization of the degree, if we can continue using the facilities during, for example, this summer or next year or in 2 years for us to fulfill our projects?
Because of the situation, we're expected to compromise our degree show, our final year project, our graduation, and just our final year at university in general. How do you expect us to have the same level of education, and of perfection and of work if we don't have access to the university, to the library, to the workshop, and even to some human contact? How do you expect it to have the same results if we have to work from home in a situation of stress?
One of my main concerns is the way in which UAL has dealt with the mental health of their students during this time. The UK lockdown started on the 23rd of March, well over a month ago, following the lead of countries from all around the world. Like, we all knew this was coming. And on the first day of term, about 3 weeks later, it was apparent that UAL had not spent the time in between putting together a sufficient enough support network to assist their students, many of who have now found themselves facing financial hardship or serious mental health issues. And obviously these burdens all have a grave impact on students' abilities to create and produce work. And so I want to know what UAL will be doing to ensure that students can feel that they are being properly supported.
Well, one of my many concerns with regards to this situation is, first of all, how are we as UAL students meant to create and produce work to the best of our abilities without the resources and facilities that are promised to us when we enroll and pay our tuition fees at UAL? And how are we meant to be okay with continuing and finishing our art degrees online, which will be compromised without these resources? And why should our work and our experience at UAL be compromised or be less than what we expected, what we signed up for, or what we were promised because of a situation that is completely out of our control, and yet still be expected to pay full tuition fees?